Hello, welcome to OJ Studios. Please enjoy this week's chapter of Punishment 2, Return of Amanda, by Olivia Julius. I groggily reached for my phone to check the time. The soft glow of the screen revealed that it was only 5:30 a.m., an hour before my usual wake-up time. The air in my room felt charged with both excitement and nervous energy. The impending assignment had consumed my thoughts the entire night, and now, in the early hours of the morning, there was a strange mix of anticipation and anxiety. Last night Brittany and I were video calling each other about the assignment. Emily was also with her. They both just got done with ballet class and Emily was at Brittany's house waiting for one of her two moms to come and pick her up. Brittany was still wearing her ballet leotard while Emily had on regular clothes. I was wearing Gracie's school uniform, surprising them both. "Why are you wearing a girl's uniform?" Emily asked. "Are you finally going to be a girl all the time?" Brittany asked excitedly. "No, it's Gracie's uniform," I said, shrugging. "I only put it on to make sure it fits." I was only telling a half-truth. I was also wearing this to see what Brittany's reaction would be. I explained the assignment and our plan to challenge gender norms by swapping uniforms and discussing societal expectations. Brittany and Emily listened attentively, occasionally interjecting with exclamations of support or laughter. "That's actually a pretty cool idea," Brittany admitted, a thoughtful expression on her face. "You know, challenging the ideas that boys can't wear dress and all." "I just hope it goes well," I replied, my mind already racing with thoughts about the presentation the next day. As morning light began to filter through my window, I reluctantly got out of bed and began preparing for the day. The thought of facing the school wearing a girl's school uniform made my stomach churn, but I reminded myself that it was all for a project, and I had Gracie by my side. I went to my dresser and grabbed a pair of pink flower patterned panties from my drawer. I am going to be showing everyone me in a dress, might as well also wear a girly pair of panties too. Right? I also grabbed a pair of white tights and started to put them on. Originally, I was just going to wear my normal socks to school and wear them in the girls' uniform during our presentation, but Gracie stopped me and said it would be a lot easier and cuter to wear tights with the girls' uniform. I then started to put my normal boys' uniform on over the tights. I won't put Gracie's uniform on until our presentation during class. I packed Gracie's folded up uniform in a plastic bag, along with the black Mary Jane dress shoes, and the rest of my homework for class went into my book bag. Once the bus arrived, I headed outside and slowly got on. It felt weird to be wearing the tights under my clothes, but I also know that if I didn't put them on while I was home, I would be stuck trying to figure out how to put them on while sitting in a bathroom stall at school, and that seemed like a nightmare to me. Arriving at school, I greeted Gracie, who, for right now, was wearing her uniform jumper. I knew that she had my uniform for our planned presentation in her book bag as well. We exchanged glances, each recognizing the shared commitment to the project. Last night Dad gave us both written permissions to be in the other's uniform during school hours. I walked with Gracie into the classroom, and I took my normal seat in the classroom. No one else was in the room, so it was a little easier for her and I to talk together. "Should we be doing this?" I wondered to myself. I mean, if I wore a girl's uniform, would I be teased? I thought back to last year when I sat on the bench with my then two best friends. During recess we would comment about what would make a boy a sissy. That's how I got into this position in the first place. Mr. Taylor walked into the classroom. He stopped, surprised that we were both in the room while everyone else was still outside counting down the minutes to when they would be forced to come inside. "Good morning, Adam." "Good morning, Gracie," Mr. Taylor said, putting his bag on his desk. "Good morning, Mr. Taylor," we chorused, attempting to act casual despite the unusual circumstances. "Gracie." As more students filed into the classroom, a buzz of chatter filled the air. I couldn't help but feel a mix of nervousness and curiosity about how our classmates would react. Gracie and I exchanged glances, silently reassuring each other that we were in this together. The bell rang, signaling the start of the day. Mr. Taylor stood at the front of the class and began the usual morning routine. I was relieved when Mr. Taylor didn't ask us to present our assignments first thing in the morning. Instead, he started with our math test. I have never been so happy to do math in my life. As the school day slowly went on, I felt the knot tighten in my stomach. The day seemed to go by slowly as we went from learning math to switching to English, to doing our reading assignments. I hoped that Mr. Taylor forgot about our homework assignments, that I would get out of this without having to show everyone that I was in a dress with Gracie yesterday. Right before the last recess of the day, Mr. Taylor finally announced that after the break, we will be presenting our homework assignments. My heart sank as I looked over to Gracie. "Ready or not? I guess we are doing this." Everyone in the classroom got up from their seats and stood in a single file line to get ready to go outside. I decided to be in the back of the line and Gracie followed my lead and stood next to me. Mr. Taylor dismissed the class to go down to the playground, and as we passed him going out the classroom door, he stopped Gracie and me. "Adam, your father said that you two need an extra time to get ready for your presentation," Mr. Taylor said. "Yes sir," I confirmed. "Well, the class will be back from recess in 20 minutes, use this time wisely," Mr. Taylor said. Both Gracie and I nodded our heads in understanding. This was it, the moment we had been waiting for. Gracie and I both went back to where our book bags were hanging on the bag hooks. I grabbed mine and pulled out Gracie's girl uniform while Gracie grabbed my boy uniform. We left the classroom and headed down the hallway opposite the rest of the class. I walked into the boys' bathroom. I sighed in relief when I saw that the restroom was empty, and no one was in it. I walked into one of the stalls and looked at the door behind me. I quickly took off my uniform slacks, and my uniform polo shirt, leaving me wearing my white tights and panties. I put on the girly polo that Gracie had with her uniform and put it on. I then grabbed the uniform jumper. I slipped it on and made sure that it was on correctly. It felt weird to be out of my slacks and into a dress where the bottom of the jumper was floating around my legs. Taking a deep breath, I collected my clothes and put them back into the same bag that I held Gracie's uniform earlier. I slowly opened the stall door and poked my head out to make sure that I was alone in the restroom. Satisfied, I stepped out of the stall and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. With my long hair I still looked like a girl, with the girl's uniform. If no one knew me, I would just be another girl in the 5th grade to them. The sight was surreal. There I stood, wearing a girl's uniform, complete with tights and all in school, during the day, where all my classmates would see me. The anxiety that had built up throughout the day intensified as I thought about facing my classmates in this unexpected attire. I quickly left the boys' restroom just as Gracie left the girls'. Gracie and I met up in the hallway, both dressed in each other's uniforms. We exchanged nervous glances, but there was also a shared sense of determination. We had committed to this project, and now it was time to face our classmates. As we walked back to the classroom, I looked around at the empty hallway. I tried to remind myself that I looked like a girl, and even if any of the teacher recognized me as Adam, they couldn't do anything to me or to Gracie since we have our notes from Dad. "This is so weird," Gracie whispered. "I never thought that I would be wearing pants at school," she almost seemed giddy about it. Meanwhile, my mind was focused on the girl's uniform that I was wearing. Entering the classroom, both Gracie and I were relieved that the class was still at recess. The classroom was empty except for Mr. Taylor sitting at his desk. He looked up from his paperwork and raised an eyebrow at us. "Ready for your presentation?" he asked with a bemused smile. It was clear that Dad didn't tell him what Gracie and I were planning or that we were switching uniforms. I was glad that he didn't say anything to me about wearing the girls' uniform. Gracie and I exchanged a quick glance, and I nodded in response. We approached Mr. Taylor's desk, and I couldn't help but feel the eyes of the room on us, even though it was empty. "Yes, sir," Gracie replied confidently. "We're all set." Mr. Taylor leaned back in his chair, his expression a mix of curiosity and amusement. "Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you two came up with. Remember, the goal is to challenge societal norms, so make it impactful." "We will," I assured him, trying to sound more confident than I felt. With a nod from Mr. Taylor, we headed to our seats. Gracie grabbed a piece of paper from her desk and handed it to me. "I wrote down a few things for you to say." The classroom door swung open, and the rest of the class began to trickle in, chattering excitedly about their recess adventures. I sat nervously, fidgeting with the hem of the jumper, acutely aware of the uniform I was wearing. I wondered if this would have been how I would feel if Gracie had decided that I needed to remain as Amanda last year. I couldn't imagine wearing this every single day to school. The class didn't seem to notice me at first, but then to my dismay they did. I could hear whispers around the room with mine and Gracie's name, I could feel all eyes on me, and then just as suddenly the classroom silenced. I looked up to see Mr. Taylor at the front of the classroom. "Social norms," he said, starting us out. Social norms refer to values, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors shared by a group of people. They are often based on what people believe to be normal, typical, or appropriate. Social norms can function as unspoken rules or guidelines for how people behave, and for how people are expected to behave. So, with that in mind, let's see how your research into social norms go. To my dismay, Mr. Taylor didn't call on Gracie and me first. Instead, he called other students before us. As Mr. Taylor called on other students before us, the anxiety in the room seemed to heighten. Whispers and curious glances were exchanged among our classmates, and I couldn't help but feel a growing unease. I looked at the note with the points she wanted me to cover during our presentation, but my mind was racing with worry about how our classmates would react. The other students in my class picked other norms to talk about. Some of what they talked about was, forming a line at store counters, saying "bless you" when someone sneezes, or holding the door to someone entering a building right after you. None of them chose to talk about the gender norms of our society. Finally, after all the other students got done with their speeches, it was our turn to present. Mr. Taylor gestured for us to come to the front of the classroom. Gracie and I exchanged another quick glance, and we stood up to face our classmates. I took a deep breath, holding Gracie's note for support. Gracie handed Mr. Taylor a flash drive. I looked over to the board where the PowerPoint that Gracie had made without pictures from last night was waiting for us. Gracie took the remote that would flip the pages and stood next to me at the front of the room. No one was watching her, all eyes were on me, the boy who was wearing a dress. "Hi, everyone," Gracie began, her voice steady. "So, for our project, Adam and I decided to challenge the idea that certain clothes are only meant for boys or girls. We wanted to explore why these norms exist and if they should be changed." I nodded, following Gracie's lead. "That's right! We believe that everyone should be free to express themselves through their clothing without judgment. So, as part of our project, we swapped uniforms to highlight these norms and question why they exist in the first place." I glanced around the room, noting the varied reactions of our classmates. Gracie pushed the next button on the remote and a picture of Gracie and I from the barbecue yesterday popped up. I was wearing the blue dress with white polka dots that Brittany gave me. There were some giggles throughout the room, but Mr. Taylor quickly quieted everyone. Imagine if there were no expectations about what boys or girls should wear. What if clothing was simply a form of self-expression without being tied to gender? That's the world we're envisioning, Gracie continued, gesturing to the picture on the screen. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. Our goal is to start a conversation. Why is it that certain clothes are associated with being a boy or a girl? What impact does it have on individuals? We want everyone to feel comfortable expressing themselves authentically, free from societal expectations. As we spoke, I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me, and I couldn't help but wonder how they perceive this unexpected display of breaking gender norms. Gracie pressed the remote again, revealing a series of slides with information about the history of gendered clothing and the evolving nature of fashion. "We did some research," Gracie continued, "and throughout history, what's considered appropriate clothing for men and women has changed. It's not set in stone. We're challenging the idea that boys should wear pants and girls should wear dresses. It's time to redefine what's normal." I nodded, adding, "Just because something has been the norm for a long time doesn't mean it's right or should stay that way. We should question these norms and be open to change. It's about understanding and accepting each other for who we are." The atmosphere in the room was a mix of curiosity, surprise, and, for some, discomfort. Gracie pressed the remote for the final slide, which showcased a quote, "Equality is not sameness. It's about the freedom to be different." Gracie changed the slide on the PowerPoint showing the formal photo of her and I. As we concluded our presentation, Mr. Taylor thanked us for our unique perspective. The class was left in a thoughtful silence before breaking into applause, some more enthusiastic than others. We returned to our seats, aware of the lingering conversations and curious gazes that followed us. Returning to our seats, we were met with applause. Mr. Taylor smiled, clearly pleased with our presentation. Gracie and I exchanged relieved glances, the burden of our unconventional attire lightened by the support of our classmates. I sat down in my seat, now feeling a whole lot better. I looked over at Gracie and smiled, and she smiled back at me. Mr. Taylor got back up to the front of the classroom and said a few things before the bell announced that the day was over. I collected the books that were on my desk and waited as other students grabbed their bags from their hooks. I didn't push, instead I just patiently waited for everyone to get out of the way. Once everyone was done at the hooks, I went to grab my book bag in normal uniform, only to find that the bag that held my uniform was no longer there. Someone must have taken it while they were grabbing their own book bag. I don't have an extra uniform, and if I don't think of something fast, I'll probably be stuck in this going home. Gracie saw me looking at the hooks and then looked at my bag hanging by itself. She put two and two together. "Come on!" she said, pulling on my hand. I got an idea, but we got to be fast. Gracie and I ran down the hallway and down the stairs to the school's main level. We passed the teacher while we were running and I heard her call out "young man" and "young lady" to us, and I am not sure if she knows that the young lady she was calling out to is me, a boy stuck in a girl's school uniform. Gracie pushed open the door to the school's office and ran past Dad's secretary and into Dad's office. "Someone stole Adam's other boy uniform," Gracie said to Dad. "We need to switch clothes, can you help?" Dad looked up from his work, surprised by our unexpected entrance. He quickly assessed the situation, understanding the urgency in Gracie's words. "Of course, let's get you sorted out," he replied, standing up from his desk. He led Gracie to a conference room where there were no windows and me to the staff restroom. I quickly took off the uniform and threw the uniform jumper out of the restroom. Dad picked up the clothes and a moment later my normal uniform that Gracie had been wearing was given back to me. I quickly got dressed in my uniform again, thankful that I was now back to wearing slacks again. A moment later, Gracie returned from the conference room wearing her regular uniform as well. We both took a moment to catch our breath and share a look of relief. "Alright you two, hurry up and get to your buses," Dad said. "Thanks Dad," I said before I left the office. As Gracie and I rushed to catch our buses, the events of the day played in my mind like a whirlwind. The presentation had certainly sparked conversations and challenged the norms, but I couldn't shake the lingering discomfort of being the center of attention in that way. As I boarded the bus, I felt a mix of emotions, relief, accomplishment, and a touch of anxiety. The day had been more eventful than we anticipated, and we were both ready to decompress. On the bus ride home, I reflected on the reactions of our classmates. Some seemed genuinely intrigued, others perhaps uncomfortable or unsure how to react. I wondered about the impact our presentation might have on the way they viewed gender norms and expressions. I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. I looked at the phone and saw a text from Gracie. I quickly opened it so I could read what it said. "So, has these past few days make you want to stay as a girl?" she asked. I looked around not sure what to say, but finally I just typed how I felt. "I'm just a boy. A boy that sometimes likes to dress as a girl. And that's okay.